This is a fitness tracking band with some smart features. So this guy costs $16. I was sent it to review for free, but the fact that it costs $16 makes me wonder what its feature set is going to be, and we're going to find that out. So this is at the extremely inexpensive line of notification watches with some health tracking features. And there is in the packaging a specialized cable which has, it looks like a magnetic charging point there. And on the back of this fitness band there is a sensor for detecting things like pulse rate and maybe blood oxygen, as well as a matching connection point that will connect to the band there for charging. It also includes a small quick start guide. Now I'm a little hesitant to install random software on my cell phone, so we are first going to try this out simply as a standalone device and see what it can do just standalone on its own without being connected with an app or paired with anything. Alright, when I first turned on the band, it has a selection of language. There's English, and then it says scan to bind, and it says download, install on your phone. Looks like there's a URL and band and so forth. You scan the code to start. So I think it's pretty clear that to use this watch at all, you're going to have to install the phone app. So let's scan this and see if it's from the Google Play Store. Alright, I got a URL. I click the URL. It goes to AnyLoop.com. Go to Google Play Store. And it is the AnyLoop app. So we will install the AnyLoop app. Okay, opening up the AnyLoop app. Notice to users, sensitive about your personal health data. Reads and writes directly to your device, stored locally on your phone by default. If you don't want to lose your data, go to My Settings Health Data Sync after entering the app to sync functions. In the process of using the app, we may also ask you the following permissions in order to provide more services: Bluetooth, location, photo album, calendar, reading, notification access, phone contacts, device information, sending SMS. You can adjust the authorization status of all permissions at any time by going to Permissions Management. Okay, so we are in the United States of America. We will do guest login. No email address. All data generated will be stored on the phone. If you replace your phone or uninstall the app, all data will be lost. I agree. I'm not going to put in any information here. Nope, you have to put in some information. I will use the default information. I have to pick a gender. And have to put something in for all of these. It's not letting me do anything. Let me pick a different birthday. All right. Click on device, click add device. We're doing a smartwatch. I'll do precise location only this time and allow relative devices. It's found the band. Click on the band. Agree to the binding request, so I'll say yes by clicking the check mark on the band. It is binding and complete. They want us to allow background behavior to prevent the app from being closed during the background running. Allow background behavior. battery unrestricted. All right, we have to do that manually ourselves if we want to. I am not going to give access to my addresses and phone calls and all that stuff. Turn on notification access so you can view notifications on your phone from your device. We'll skip that. Okay, it says it has 35% battery life. I will charge that up pretty soon and we'll play with it a bit and report back. Okay, I've been wearing this guy for about a week, and I am very impressed with the hardware. This is a very low-cost device, and the hardware is really quite impressive for the price I paid for it. So this is the default watch face. If you don't like it, there's plenty more. You can change them out. It basically has little displays that will show you how far you've walked, how many steps you've had, and how many calories you've burnt. It samples your heart rate every so often, maybe once every 15 minutes, unless you trigger it to do it. So when you're in the heart rate display, it'll start sampling your heart rate. It has a sleep timer. I don't wear it at night, so it's not catching my sleep. If you want the weather to work, you have to turn on background location so it knows where you are all the time. There is the music here, and so that will start your music player, and then you can forward to the next song. You can adjust the volume. It does have a timeout here, so you can jump to the next song. You can adjust the volume up and down, and you can play pause. It doesn't always react. There, I think there. So there's a little vibration when it detects the pulse. It does time out pretty quickly. I haven't found a setting where you can adjust the timeout. Usually, just flicking your wrist or hitting the button on the side will get the screen back on. So there are various things you can use without too many permissions. So it has a camera app. And so with the camera app, if you shake your wrist, it'll take a picture. And then they have timers, so you can have a stopwatch that has a lapse stopwatch on it and a reset. They also have an alarm clock, and you cannot set an alarm from the wrist, but if you set the alarm in the companion app, it'll show up here. There is the music controller, which you've already seen, and then there's some activity things where some of the functions are not enabled unless you have logged into an account. They have the heart rate sensor, which you've seen already, and it basically takes 10 or 15 seconds to get your heart rate. And they also have a blood oxygen sensor. And it doesn't appear to sample the blood oxygen sensor unless you go into the blood oxygen sensor, and that triggers a sample. So I am going to put on a fingertip heart rate and blood oxygen sensor, and we will compare it to the results that this guy gets here. All right, so this guy says 79 beats per minute. That guy's at 78, 77. These are fluctuating. Now it's down to 74. This is at 76. So it seems to get my beats per minute pretty well. The percent of oxygen in the blood is 98%, and that was pretty close to what we had before. I'm going to go over to the blood oxygen and trigger another measure there. So, this says 97, it said 98 before, this is at 98, so it seems to be in the same range. I'm down to 75 beats per minute here, and so if I go back to the heart rate, we can see what it says there. So this says 75, 73, that's at 75 right now. Now it dropped to 73. So it appears that the blood oxygen sensor and the heart rate sensor work at least as well as your generic, clip-on fingertip sensor. So the companion app, the AnyLoop app, seems to be pretty full-featured. You can track your steps, your heart rate, and so forth. They have, tracking of all the data it's doing. And here's the device, and so if you don't like the watch face that it comes with it, there's a whole bunch of different watch faces you can pick instead, and you've clicked them to download, and it takes a while to transfer to the phone, or from the phone to the watch here. It basically will sync to the watch, and then you get a like an icon up here that's like a circle with an arrow, and it has to download it to the phone first, and then it uploads it from the phone to the watch, and you have a percentage thing that goes across. So it's not like it instantly changes the watch face, but generally within 30 seconds to a minute or so you can swap out your watch face here. And it looks like the watch is limited to one face at a time. I haven't found any way to change the face from the watch. You have to have a companion app to do that, to change the face. So you can see here it just changes the face. And there are a reasonable number of things. They have, some things that are slightly more formal, but for the most part, it's going to look like a smartwatch. Most of the faces have kind of big digits and bright colors. There's 2 or 3 that are just kind of like, there's this one analog, and then there's another one that looks kind of like a kind of an LCD watch. But for the most part, it's going to look like a smartwatch. Now, I have to say, at the $16 price point, this is an impressive piece of hardware for that price point. So, I'm perfectly happy with the hardware of the watch and what it can do at that price point. So the app, has all the features you might want from a basic smartwatch. It is not Google Wear compatible, so the app has to run and do all of the things on its own. And so if you want to fully take advantage of this, you need to give this app lots of permissions. So just to connect with Bluetooth, I need to give it location permission, because when it looks at Bluetooth beacons, it can get the location from that. So basically, to give it the Bluetooth permissions, you have to give it precise location permissions. If you want the weather report to work, you need to give it precise location and also location in the background. It will not work with just the last known location. It requires location in the background. So it's tracking your location all the time if you want the weather to report. If you want it to display incoming phone calls or display messages or display calendar events, you need to give permissions for all your messages, all your calendar events, all your phone call data. And so they claim that if you sign in with a guest account, none of this data is shared with the back-end servers, but there's no way to verify that claim necessarily. And so it really comes down to a matter of, do you trust the AnyLoop app? And if you trust the AnyLoop app, then you can give it all these permissions and do all of that. Personally, I'm not sure I trust a random app with, my calendar and my messaging and my phone calls and, my data, my location data all the time. So I haven't enabled those permissions, but you might make a different choice. And if you enable all the permissions, it looks like the app is full-featured enough to kind of do everything you'd expect it to do. So using just the phone, they do have a workout tracker, so you can say, hey, I'm running. It'll say, okay, start running in X number of seconds, and then you take off and run, and it will track, your running workout. And then, it's up to you to stop this when you're done running. And so you can say, okay, well, return to running or end. Well, it didn't save much data of my little run there, but if you ran for a while, it would save that data, and then you could go through the data and look at a record of your workout. Obviously, I haven't done any workouts. So here's another example watch face. You drag down, you get kind of some settings. You can adjust the brightness of the watch with this thing up here. There is a flashlight mode, which basically turns it to all white. And they have some things where you can click on the battery and you can, turn on power saving mode where it will disconnect Bluetooth and so forth. So there's some settings and things you can do. You can hit this button to try to find your phone, and your phone starts vibrating. It tells you some information about, the versions of the firmware and so forth. And then there's some settings where you can pick the menu style and the displays, and you can pick your vibration intensity, and there's a QR code to go and download the app. So basically if you have messages, you swipe up and it would have messages in there. Swipe left to get all these little mini apps that are built in. Swipe right to get to kind of the information displays. Now, there's no ability to add any extra apps from anywhere else, so you're kind of limited to the apps supported by the AnyLoop program, but it has pretty much all the basic features I would expect in a kind of fitness monitoring smartwatch band. So, there are plenty of watch faces to choose from. So charging is via this proprietary included cable. It has magnets on it. It just snaps into place here. And of note, it only snaps in one direction, so it won't go in that way. It'll snap in the correct direction. And once you snap it in, if this guy was plugged into a USB-A port, it would charge it back up. I've found that this guy will go for a week without needing to be recharged just under normal usage. So it's decent battery life for a smartwatch. If you charge it up every night, you're never going to have any problems, but you can probably get away with charging it once a week unless you use a lot of the functions and turn the screen on a lot. So in summary, this has all the basic functionality you would want. The price point's very low. Feature set is very reasonable for a kind of smartwatch, health monitoring band. So at the $15 price point, I'm actually quite impressed with the functionality built into this. So it really comes down to, are you going to trust the AnyLoop app with all of the data that it asks to be shared with to use the smartwatch in the way it's intended? So this guy claims to be IP68 waterproof. I've taken it through a 1-hour water aerobics class, and it's still working just fine. So I'm going to say, yes, it survived 1 hour in a swimming pool.